Hey friends, welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Jamie, and on this channel I share a lot about simple living and decluttering, but I also talk a lot about habits and productivity and a lot about organization. Today I want to have an honest conversation about why I talk so interchangeably about these things and what in the world simple living, organization, habits, and productivity have to do with each other. Have you noticed that a lot of the messages that we are sent by social media and just by society in general are telling us that we can do it all, we can have it all, and we can be it all? That is just not realistic, and the pursuit of that isn't healthy. I know this firsthand because there was a time in my life when I aspired to have more and to do more. And you know what? I was dissatisfied and unhappy. The feeling was equivalent to treading water, working hard and getting nowhere. I was burned out. I was also perpetually discouraged because there's a big gap between what I was and what I wanted to be. I have always loved the idea that I can become an even better version of myself. And for years, I have loved reading productivity and self-help books. But there was something holding me back from being able to put those things into practice and be that better version of myself. Looking back, I can see very clearly that at the heart of it all was stuff. I had a lot of stuff. I had a lot of things to take care of. This was a direct result of how I was always acquiring more in hopes that some gadget or trending item from Amazon or some recommendation from someone on the internet would help me be happier, trendier, more confident, more on time, more organized, more productive. The list goes on. But at the time, I didn't realize just how much stuff I had in my house and what having that much stuff was doing to me, what that stuff was costing me. All that stuff had to be moved, cleaned, maintained, cared for, remembered, picked up, repaired, dusted, etc. To say nothing of the fact that doing all that meant I had less time for doing the things that I really wanted to be doing. Once I began decluttering is when I noticed the gap between who I was and who I wanted to be was closing. And that is because I was spending less time on daily tasks like cleaning and taking care of all my stuff, looking for things. And so I was able to focus more on self-betterment and less on just surviving. I was able to focus more on becoming a better version of myself by doing things like forming good habits and getting more organized. I was finally able to realize that gadgets or possessions, however well-intentioned, rarely made me more on time, more organized, or more productive. They certainly didn't make me any happier. And that those things that were supposed to make me trendier or more confident always just became outdated. And what had caused my perspective to change? Decluttering. Decluttering is what made me more on time, more organized, and more productive. Because decluttering is what helped me have more mental energy and more desire and more ability to put good systems and habits into place in my life. I stopped looking to stuff to solve my problems. Acquiring more stuff hadn't helped, but it had been making things worse. Now, for an analogy. When my husband and I were first married, we lived 10 hours away from his family. Our car at the time didn't have cruise control, and so making the trip to see his family was exhausting. Whoever was driving always had a tired leg from pushing on the gas. You always felt like you couldn't really get comfortable. Sure, the trip was doable and it was worth it in the end, but it was pretty uncomfortable and tedious. I like to think of the correlation between decluttering and good habits and organization like going on a long road trip and being able to put on the cruise control. You still have to direct the car, but you use way less energy. Habits and organization are like cruise control for our lives. However, if you're on a bumpy road that is filled with obstacles or clutter that you have to maneuver around, you're unable to turn on the cruise control. I have found in my own life that having good habits while being like cruise control, it does require initial desire and mental energy. The cruise control doesn't come on by itself. You have to turn it on. And if you're overwhelmed by daily tasks like keeping on top of a lot of stuff, the last thing you have energy for is one more thing. You can't even get to a place where you can put the cruise control on. When you're treading water in life, like I was before I decluttered, you barely have enough energy to do the things that have to be done, let alone do things like put good habits and systems in place and get organized. I shared my full decluttering story in my video, Decluttering, 7 Ways It Will Change Your Life and Home. But essentially, once I decluttered my home, I was able to live more of the life that I wanted to. Or, to go along with our analogy, I removed a lot of the obstacles from my road or possessions that needed my time and attention. And I removed a lot of the bumps in the road, which were the repercussions of having too much stuff, like diminished energy, lower mental energy, stress, etc., so that I could focus more on self-betterment, forming habits, getting organized, etc., and put my life on cruise control. This doesn't mean it's always a smooth ride or that there aren't bumps or obstacles that come up, because they always will. As a disclaimer, when forming good habits and getting organized and putting good systems in place, I had to start small and I couldn't change everything at once. But decluttering was the best place to start. And from there, forming habits was liberating. Getting organized and putting good systems into place just makes life easier in the long run. When I first began decluttering, it was for one purpose and one purpose only, and that was to make my life easier. And while that's still the number one reason why I declutter, there have been quite a few things that I have noticed that have come about thanks to decluttering. Today, I want to share 13 of the unexpected benefits of decluttering. Number 1, it has helped me form and keep better habits. It has freed up so much of my mental capacity so that not only am I just surviving, but I'm able to put good systems in place to put my life on cruise control. This was actually a surprise to me and not one that I was expecting when I first started out. Before decluttering, putting good habits into place was a lot harder, and the habits that I was trying to form didn't stick very well because I was so overwhelmed by everything else. Number 2, I can make decisions faster. I run through the decision-making process way faster than I used to be able to. And if you know me in real life, I am naturally the kind of person who doesn't like making decisions. I used to say I could spend 20 minutes just choosing a laundry soap, and that was no exaggeration. Because really, a huge part of decluttering is making decisions. Sometimes hard decisions. And since I've spent 3 years making hard decisions, I've gotten a lot better at making decisions in general. And with that, number 3, I trust my decisions more. I don't question myself as much once I've made a decision. I've decluttered so many things, and I can't think of more than 1 or 2 things that I genuinely regret getting rid of, and those being things that I could easily replace for not a lot. This has carried into other areas of my life. Decluttering has made me a better decision maker. It has made me a more confident decision maker. This is a big deal for me since I used to question my decisions a lot. Number 4, decluttering has helped me discover how I really like to spend my time. Because we really stripped away the fluff and got down to the essentials, I've been able to really start adding things back in bit by bit and seeing what it is I really like doing. For example, I have always just used frozen rolls to go with soup or something like that. My kids love rolls, and they've always been fine with the frozen ones because they didn't know any different. I have made rolls from scratch before, but I never had the time or energy to perfect them. But since I've really simplified what I have in my home, and therefore simplified what I have to do, I've had the time to try new things. I've recently started making rolls from scratch, and I have discovered that I love them. They taste way better than the frozen rolls that I've been making for years, and my entire family likes them more. Number 5, I got rid of a lot of guilt. Guilt over things that I had spent money on but not used like I thought I would. Guilt over hobbies that I no longer had interest in but had the supplies for. Guilt over clothes that no longer fit but that I was holding on to just in case. Guilt over unused kitchen gadgets. Guilt over toys that I had bought my kids but that they didn't play with. We could talk for hours about the different ways that my stuff was making me feel guilty. Number 6, I'm able to feel more in control of my life and less like I'm just going through the motions of living a life that is pulling me along. Number 7, I don't feel any panic when a friend or family member drops by unannounced or with very little notice. A few months ago, a neighbor and I were working on a project together. We were texting about possible solutions, and we were both texting more and more, trying to figure out what to do. She texted me and said, "Can I just come over right now and we'll get this figured out?" I was able to say, "Sure," without a second thought. My house wasn't spotless, but there was so little laying around that it really wasn't a big deal. A few years ago, the 2 minutes it would have taken her to walk from her house to mine would have been 2 minutes of me frantically running around and throwing things into a basket to throw into the closet. Number 8, I became more content with what I had. There was a time when hearing someone talk about having a bigger house would have made me a tiny bit envious. I would have thought about how I needed a bigger house and how nice it would be to have more space to store things. But now, when I hear about someone having a bigger house, one of the first thoughts I have is about how much more responsibility they're going to have, how much more they're going to have to take care of, to clean, to furnish, to manage, etc. And while I can still be very happy for someone who has a bigger house than me, I am now very aware of how I wouldn't want that for myself. Number 9, I am more confident and I accept myself more for who I am in the current stage, phase, and season of life. While I feel like I've always had a strong sense of self, no longer do I base part of my self-worth on the things that I have or don't have. I don't look at myself as less than because I can't keep up with the Joneses. I stopped even trying to keep up with the Joneses. With that, number 10, decluttering has taught me a lot about not having to follow every trend. I found a lot of freedom in not having to keep up with the most current trends in clothing and home decor. Things that are based on trends always go out of style. I still want to have clothes that are cute and look nice and a home that is inviting and well decorated, but I found a lot of freedom in wearing things because I really love them and not because they're popular or trendy. I have found my home a place that I love being in because it's decorated and furnished for our family's current phase of life and because it fits us. Sure, we won't be featured on the cover of Better Homes and Gardens, but it is a place that we love being and a place where we are comfortable. Not only is this freeing, but it has also prevented me from having to get a whole new wardrobe every few years when current styles go out. It has also prevented me from having to change the furnishings and decor in my home every few years because now something else is in style. If you think that you have to be trendy to be stylish, I'm here to tell you this is a huge misconception. Number 11, I'm less distracted. I no longer have things everywhere sending me messages about things that I need to get done, or the message of how I'm such a failure because I haven't gotten around to taking care of all of my stuff. Number 12, I am living a more peaceful life. Sure, this is in part because I have less things and less to worry about, but also I am not surrounded by a whole bunch of just-in-case items that constantly cause me to worry about all the things that could happen. Instead, I only have items that really bring value to me here and now. That's not to say I'm not prepared for an emergency, but just to say that my home contains items that are reasonable. And number 13, decluttering and the subsequent changing of my habits to keep excess clutter out of my home has brought me a lot of peace in these times of economic uncertainty. I spend less, I consume less, and I rely less on accessibility to possessions. Now, I would love to hear in the comments, what have you noticed that has come about because of decluttering? Which of these things resonated with you? If you are interested in learning more about the habits that I changed after I decluttered in order to keep excess clutter out of my home, I will link my video, Decluttering Wasn't Enough, below. Thanks for watching, friends. Have a great day.